UFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals, and we've got a special guest tonight. It is welcome back to the show to Keith Patterson. How are you, Keith?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, mate. Good to see you. And welcome to Stu and to Mitch, and welcome to everybody in the chat as well. 90 minutes of Newcastle United crack, and just have a bit chat about what is going on. And we'll start, of course, with the ongoing transfer window. It's still got just under a month to go, Keith. We've got two players in. We've got Alanga in, and we've got Ramsdale in. Of course, we've signed a few youngsters as well along the way, but missed out on a hell of a lot of names, faces who've either chosen to go to other clubs or, have refused to, to come to St James's and chase the pound note as opposed to chase Newcastle United's project. Latest developments, well, there isn't really any. A lot of people, I guess, tune into various different journalists on here. I tend to stick to Craig Hope myself. Went to Craig's podcast this morning, 15 minutes of updates, and he's always very honest. It's his opinion, a lot of it. It's not always a definite or 100%, but it seems that the current state of affairs is we'll bid for Sesko. It's a sizable bid. It's a good bid. I guess Manchester United are still sniffing around as well. It's down to the player to declare where he wants to go, as to whether Newcastle's offer is going to be good enough. They may go back in with an increased offer. Who knows? That is one development, of course. The other development is Brentford and Wissa, who has quite publicly, not trained with Brentford, hasn't played any pre-season friendlies, and is generally looking to get a move to Newcastle, who have gone in with an offer, albeit lower than what Brentford have asked for. So again, that seems to be getting played out quite publicly, but seems as if Wissa does want to come to Newcastle because of the Champions League on offer, and quite clearly sees what Newcastle are doing and wants to buy into that. Probably the only other one that you could say is being generally talked about anywhere is Van Hackel, the centre-half at Brighton. Checked out, as I said, on Friday, the Brighton newspapers quite clearly stating that he's been offered a better deal and he's turned it down. He wants to play elsewhere. Newcastle, of course, chasing a centre-half. Have been linked with him, but that's not really been taken up massively by the media. And then Alexander Isak situation, of course, which is still dragging on, but quite rightly, I guess, won't be sorted out until Newcastle have a ready-made replacement. And that's it, really. It's as simple as that. Nothing else of any major issue. There is other, talks of other people going out of the club, goalkeepers in particular, because we brought Ramsdale in. And of course, Newcastle played today, a 1-1 draw against Tottenham, a useful run out. Harvey Barnes with Newcastle's goal, Brennan with the opener for Spurs. Probably the biggest talking point from that, other than Joe Linton doing what Joe Linton does, is that Maddison, of course, one of Spurs' key playmakers, has been badly injured. and doesn't look like he'll be playing anytime soon. So bad news for Spurs in that. But Newcastle returning, of course, tomorrow, back into training Tuesday. We'll see how the Alexander Isak thing goes. So that's your update. Keith, what have you made of it all over the last few weeks? It's been a roller coaster.
And it's been a pile of crap. I think I think the whole thing just defies logic that after the season we had, that we left the position we're in now. And my advice to you people out there, fans, is just to absolutely put in context. You know, I live to something called the Serenity poem, which it basically, in a nutshell, says determine who's got control and accept the control you don't have. Accept when you're not in control of something, whether that's your partner leaving, whether that's your kids leaving home at it, you know, when they get to 17, 18, you don't control it. You can influence it. And unfortunately in football, you don't control anything. You don't control who we signing. You go, you know, all these posts, long-winded posts, and I see people arguing for like an hour and a half on Twitter about who we should buy and how we should do it. And I see fans saying that, you know, we need to tell PIF to stop buying players for our competitors, and people going irate and get carried away. And all you're doing, you're just smashing your own mental health, because whatever you say on there will not make a money's tosh difference. You won't, you can nominate any player. Like the day a fan nominates a player on Twitter and Newcastle buy them, I'll hear with shit, because it's not happening, because they've scouted and vetted all these players and their list miles long. So I saw some crap about Muniz, who plays for Fulham. He's 40 million. They quote to some people to call him a Brazilian beast, and they're talking about him being really good forward. And then the next article you read, somebody says he's hopeless, he's not good enough for us. The reality is, you will get who you get. So come September, when you go in there and the window shuts, have a look at who's in the squad, and that's who you're getting. And no matter what you say, how much you kick off, how much you upset yourself, you're not going to change it. So for me, accept we don't pick the teams. We'll never, ever control what PIF do with their other companies. And why would you? If PIF bought my company and they said to me, oh, all right, stop buying players from Liverpool or Chelsea, I'd say get stuffed. And always remember, they've got an 85% share in Newcastle, and that can produce phenomenal things as and when either legislation or growth in sponsors, as Stuart put, allows us to do it. And when that happens, that's when you'll see the dynamicism of PIF. That's when you'll realise how good it is to have PIF behind you. But while we're fighting a cartel and fighting PSR, you will always, you know, annoy yourselves with what's going on. And this is a car crash. My biggest annoyance, which I'll come on to later on, is why it happened and how it was allowed to happen. And this season and this window could have been avoided. If I've got any criticism level to anybody in Newcastle, I would just say to you quietly, I'm concerned that it took as long as it did to recognise that every time you went after a player and wages would come in, or every time you went after someone, see, you went after Alanga and he must have given assurances that he wanted to come and it was only in Newcastle, and you run against yourself. Wissa has said, don't want to go to Villa, don't want to go to Spurs, don't want to go to Forest, I want to go to Newcastle. That's the time to do it. But what's happening is we keep going after all these players that the big four, big five, or big six, or whatever you want to call them, that they're going after. So we're going to get outbid off Man United for Safeco, we're going to get outbid for Pedro, you're going to get outbid for Ekitike. That's obvious. Why does it take us so long to recognise that we should shop in different markets? We should pick up some people from abroad who only talk in Newcastle. And the minute an agent goes and puts it public, he's creating an auction, and he's doing it deliberately. But the other clubs let you do that. You could get an agreement off the other club before, you know, they discuss terms with the agent. So there could be an agreement with the club that you're on the money, then do it. At the minute, I just feel as though every single player we go for is then touted, and we create an auction. And we've been, and I know this from people I know within Newcastle, that we've been mentioned for players we've never ever gone for. But putting the Newcastle factor into it, you're going to create an auction that probably wasn't there in the first place. So I think, Steve, what do I think at the minute? It's heap of shite. It's awful. It's a terrible window. you know, if you come out of it and you get a good centre half and you get Ramsdale and you get, you know, a Langer and you get a centre forward who wants to play for us, then you know, on we go again and we take them all on. But for what it could have been after winning the cup and after getting the Champions League, you know, none of us four knew that Alexander Isak was categorically promised a contract over 12 months ago. And none of us knew that Paul Mitchell decided not to give him it, and not even to account to his agent why he wasn't getting it, or not to give him a plan of when he could get it. None of us knew that. So we assumed that Alexander Isak went forward with the team. So huge disappointment to be a Newcastle fan, to be looking forward to going back to Champions League, to be looking forward to spending money for the first winter in 3, and then to learn this pile of horse shit's going to hit you. And you always say, you know what I mean, if everything feels on top of the world, remember it spins around every day, and it revolves every day, and you might find yourself falling off it. And right now, I don't think anybody could feel buoyant. I don't think any of you three would think that we're going to get Sesko. I don't think you'd be sitting there thinking, I think Sesko's in the bag. I think if you're realists, you'll probably think there's more chance that just when we get him, Man United come in and trumpet. But under PSR and under what I've been preaching on for 4 years, come October, you'll never compete under these rules on wages or on ability to spend. It's a fact of life.
Yeah, I would agree with you, mate, 100%. Mitch, we've had a chat on Friday, and it is, like Craig Hope keeps saying on his podcast, it's very, very fluid. This how it changes. He keeps apologising because he says my podcast's probably out of date when I come on. He says because of all the stuff that's been said, and it's a strange situation now with Sesko. There's no clarification as which club he wants to. He's now keeping his options open by all accounts. But yeah, it's still fluid. It's still an opportunity for Newcastle to potentially get him. But I'll not believe it until I see him, on the pitch with the Newcastle shirt on.
Does that not mean if you say keep his options open, can you translate that? Waiting for somebody. Does that know what that
waiting for something else? Yeah.
At the minute, it feels like that, doesn't it?
No, but that's like seriously. So yeah. A woman asks you out for a date, you fancy her, nobody else. You say, right, when we're going to do it. But if you when a mate asks you, and you say, right, I'll give it some thought. You're waiting for somebody else. He's waiting for somebody else other than Newcastle United who've made that clear. Sorry, Nick.
No, you're absolutely right, Keith. And again, it comes back to who's in control of this, who's making these decisions. Why haven't they pivoted to a different, in a familiar way of doing business in terms of looking at a different market and people who can manage up and who want to buy into it all and want to add to the group, not just add to themselves? Why was the situation with Isak allowed to fester the way it was? Why are we still waiting for, a CEO? Why are we still waiting for yet another director of football? And all of these things and the voids that they leave the doubt, leave the concern, leave the space for things to gain legs which shouldn't gain legs. You said about people getting upset about, well, why are other PIF clubs not helping with? Well, they're not obliged to.
That's right.
The only thing they're obliged to do is help themselves. They're each individual entities. There's no obligation to do that. And if they were actively being proactive in terms of helping Newcastle United, that gives more power to those who want to come back and say, oh, you're state-controlled by a state-controlled entity because they're pulling the strings with other clubs and making this happen. And so that's what you all have to take into account when you get worried about that. And like Keith says, you've got no control over it. Let it go.
Not at all.
Let it go. We've just got to, the only thing we should be in control of is ourselves. And unfortunately, I don't think we've done a very good job of that this summer. And that's the frustration. How we can go from the best season in living memory for most fans to where we're at the moment. It's exceptionally devastating for morale, and I get it. I totally understand it. It's exceptionally frustrating. And with regard to Sesko, I would be at the point of saying, right, well, look, we've made our bid. You know where we are. and make other plans. Because if it is waiting for Man United, that I know. So there's no point in us getting a game. They get my knickers in a twist about it. I don't want a player who's coming for mercenary reasons. I want a player who wants to buy into what's possible with Newcastle United and all the positive things. But that's also then what makes me exceptionally disappointed still with Isak. To go from, Lanya Seljordi on a stage with a cup in your hand to, right, I'm off to train on my own at my former club, literally in a matter of weeks, really, raises a lot of questions about the individual and his character. And he's got a long road back with a lot of Newcastle United fans if he ends up staying. Yes, you want the best players at the club. Yes, you want your best players playing for you, but you want them playing for you with their heart, and not just with their pocketbook. That's the craziness of the situation. And because we've allowed so many things to get out of control, and there's these voids within the club, including voids in communication, that's why we're all feeling the way we do.
Stu, been a long old week again, been a long old window, and it's still got a month to go. But what's your views on what you've seen over the last 7 days?
Well, that's most important, Steve. There is another month to go, and if we get one more signing each week, then we've probably had a decent window. And something that we've advocated on here, we'll judge it at the end of the window. And I know in an ideal world would want everyone in early, but when do we live in an ideal world? Just to add to what Mitch said regarding the different PIF clubs. And again, this is just hearsay, so it's not facts, so please don't try and sue us. I think it was common knowledge in the higher echelons of Saudi Arabia after the Dan Ashworth thing that they wouldn't buy from Man United for an agreed time. So that was put in the way. But the one thing for me that, I mean, Keith referred to it before, like, yeah, the word he didn't use was circus, but that's what it has been. You know, you've got people copy-pasting, retweeting, or just putting a different slant on it. It's the same story. But regarding this Sesko, of course he's a good player. You wouldn't bid that much money for him if he wasn't a good player. And I'm with Mitch. I wouldn't want someone who thinks, well, I'll wait to see if they come first. If you want to go to a team that finished 15th, that hasn't got European football, and has a leaky stadium, a rat-infested stadium, and the best years are at least 15 to 20 years behind them, then I don't want them walking through those at St. James Park. But again, that's all supposition, it's all guesswork, we don't know what's being said. But the one thing that the media, for me, have totally forgotten about or never mentioned, and mainly because it's a boring story, but it's factual, and sometimes a lot of them don't want to deal with facts, because it doesn't get them enough clicks, it doesn't get them enough likes, it doesn't get enough views or whatever, is that Newcastle United, even if they're saying Sesko, do not need to sell Isak this window. The last time we bought someone was Tonali 2 years ago. So this is the third year off the wheel. So we're on zero in effect. So if we then went and spent the money on Sesko, we'd still have 2 years to claw it back. We could go and spend 200 million this year, and then sell Isak next year. Even if we sold him for $1 million, it still puts us ahead on the PSR. But that's just a normal story. That's actually factual. People don't want to listen to that, do they? Because they like the scandal, they like the gossip, they like to, something that Keith alluded to, play with people's mental health. Now, regarding Isak, my mind has flip-flopped. No, I wouldn't even say on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, due to what's been leaked, what's been said, or what supposedly has happened. But I spoke to Joe after you did the Amigos on Friday, and he asked us, what do you think? And I said, I would really like him to stay. I said that last week. I still see him as the tip of the spear for what we're trying to achieve on the pitch. And I don't care what anyone says, but a fully focused, fully fit Alexander Isak playing for Newcastle United will only benefit us. Now, can we forgive and forget? Well, if we strip it back, what's actually happened? And I know this might go against public opinion and the groundswell is Hagum and everything else. Let's get the Beckham effigies out and turn them into Isak and stuff like that. But I touched on it last week, Steve. The guy wants to better himself. He feels like he's been let down. He feels like he's been misled. He feels like he's been lied to regarding his contracts. And this is not a defense of Isak, because the one thing I will repeat from last week, for me, if he does go, it would be anyone but Liverpool, because of the way they've played the media, the way they've led certain people to push it out, then other people to follow and repeat and rinse and repeat. It's been really, really sad. But last week, after we finished the show, someone, it was actually Martin Sutton, he sat Sutty on Twitter. He sent us a DM saying, I love the show, lads. It was really good and honest. I'd love to hear Keith. Come on. So I said, right, I'll get in touch with Keith and see if I can make it happen. Now, me and Keith have got a lot in common, and it's not just the same hairdresser. Same sense of humour, same, we do, and we're in contact, Keith, aren't we? Like most days, not every day, but most days.
Most days.
But a couple of weeks back, I seen Keith put a tweet out, and he says, "It's no one's called out Peter Silverstone for the job he's not doing." And I was like, "Excuse me, how very dare you?" So we started having a bit back and forth on that. So when the opportunity came, I asked Keith if he would join us today, and I'm thankful that he has, because it gives me and Mitch a rest as well. And I know a lot of people like to hear Keith's opinion. So thank you for coming on, Keith. I just wanted to say that before we get too far on. And Steve, I was out walking this morning and I was listening to your podcast from yesterday, and you keep calling him Van Heckel. His name's Van Heck. And I was like shouting at myself with the earpods, saying, he's called Van Heck. Thankfully, I'm out early enough where there's no one watching us.
It's one of them things, isn't it? You get a name in your mind and you just repeat it.
You get your head and you keep saying it. But I had a little spat with a Liverpool fan at work today, and he's like, Van Dijk's the best central defender in the league. Well, he's not even the best Dutch defender. I says, I tell you what, a fully fit Botman is better than him. A fully fit Van de Ven at Tottenham is better than him, and a fully fit Van Heck is better than him. He's the fourth best Dutch defender in the league, never mind the best defender of all the leagues. But the transfer saga it's actually now laughable. If you take a step back and you can see, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I did tell everyone at the start of this transfer window what Romano was about, what he's up to, and now people are catching on to it. The phrase that I used in our little WhatsApp group, and Mitch repeated it last week, was he's a paid shill. And it's quite clear now that he's taking money, he's getting advice from the agents, he's getting paid to push certain scenarios. But we don't need to sell Isak. And if Leipzig can then say to us, yeah, okay, you've matched our bid, but we want a little bit more now, just like Palace did last year, we should do exactly the same to Liverpool. I mean, I don't know where this £150 million come from, is what we've asked for, because I've never seen that in print from Newcastle United. But let's say the imaginary £150 is met. Now we want 160 now plus add-ons. We want this, we want that. Because as I said at the top of this little spiel I'm doing, we do not have to sell Isak. We don't have to sell him. But wouldn't it be nice to have two people in where he thinks, hang on, they've brought people in who want to play. And I don't mind if anyone with ambition, and if the club have let them down with false promises regarding contracts, they need to fix it as soon as possible. And if we could keep them a stay, I know it's by the day the odds are reducing on that. But if we could get them in line and say, tell you what, you can go next year, but it won't be to Liverpool. It will be to, I won't even read that, it will be to Barcelona, it will be to Real Madrid, it will be to a Bayern Munich. Then you'll go with our blessing and we'll set the fee that will be relative to you, but we need to pay you what you're worth. And there's ways around it, but they've just taken £4 million from Guinness. I mean, what a wonderful inception of an idea that is. But there's spread at 80 grand over 4 weeks. 80 grand a week over the year. Give it to him. There you go. That's you on 200 now. We've got rid of Kelly, who was reputedly on 150. We've got rid of Longstaff, who was on 40. We've got rid of Miggy, who was on 80, or apparently. There's money there to give, but make it incentivized. We'll give you a bonus. We'll back pay your money, and we'll give you another bonus once you've hit 20 goals. We'll give you another bonus once you've hit 25 if you were to stay. Now, I know this could be controversial because one's bitten, twice shy, and we don't like people scoring, but if we strip it back, Eddie Howe said, and we'll have to take Eddie Howe's word for it, that he sent him home from the Celtic game. Now, if he was injured and it was better for him to stay in Newcastle, and I'm going right over the other side of the field here, then fine. And did he go to train with Sociedad? No, he went there and he used their training facilities. They're not even there. They're on tour. So he could come back. For me, the deadline is going to be on Tuesday once they're back in. And another thing I said last week, Steve, is when it comes to Isak, if he really wants to go, say he wants to go, put in a transfer request and forsake your loyalty bonuses and say, I really want to go. And if that's the case, off you go, but it'll be on our terms. We've set a fee, but unless they match it, we're not going to give you away. Just like Crystal Palace didn't, just like Leipzig haven't, etc., etc. Why should we be the ones that bend over and pass the lube? We shouldn't. We should be the ones that are trying to grow. And I don't get this feeding a competitor because we're not going to catch Liverpool anyway. And that money won't actually strengthen us. So there's so many different sides to the argument. But ultimately, for me, Alex and Isak, for me, is better off in a black and white shirt. But only if he's committed, only if he's focused, and if we hold the cards, we decide the fee and say, okay, you can go, but that's how much we're going to ask for you. And if they don't match it, you're staying. So you're going to have to get your head round this. It's World Cup year. See what you want to do from there. So that's me bit. I would just want to get out of the way.
You see all that, Stu, and a lot of people are, by Tuesday, it'll probably decide itself. You'll probably find it Tuesday.
Yeah.
If he decides not to come to training, probably everything you've just said will go out the window because the stories.
2 weeks time, automatic.
The stories come out from people who seem to be close to this that he really wants to be away, and that's brought a lot of anger. But that's why we've got to channel that anger, because if you put a banner up at the training ground says you're rat, you're only doing two things. You're making it harder for him to come, and you're making it easier for Liverpool to get him on the cheap. Today, I saw a video from Liverpool supporters whereby they're kicking a car with Isak in it at the training ground. It's purely false. The video is 2-year-old. It's got nothing to do with
exactly.
Isak. But that's the kind of thing that's going on. And when we react to it and get these long-winded conversations and dialogues on social media with Liverpool fans, they're playing us like a pack of cards, man. It's like when is it easy to play a Newcastle fan? If we've just won the cup and somebody tries to wind you up, it's impossible. That night at Wembley when we won that cup, if someone said you a load of shit, you just laughed at it. And Malcolm said you something, you just laughed at it. But right now, we're all on edge. And what we're doing is we if you like letting ourselves down, because what we've got to do is we've just got to stay together and say, we fans, and whoever they put out, come Liverpool game, 2 weeks' time, we'll support. It's as simple as that. But telling Newcastle who to buy and telling Newcastle, I mean, let's go back to why I'm annoyed that this could have been avoided. It's clear that Craig Hope knew the bones of this story over a year ago. But I'll tell you what, he hinted on this about 6 weeks ago, and everybody went for him. And that means disappointing. The only two journalists I listen to, and I believe, is Liam Kenny and Craig Hope, because time and time again, when I've listened to them, they've been proven true. But the one thing they don't do is put false stories out to try and wind people up. When a journalist working for a national puts a story out that Dubravka's on his way to Burnley in a transfer, and 8 minutes later it's found to be false, or 8 minutes later he signs for Man City, then I'm sorry, I don't want to fill my head or fill my timeline with that up. But what people are doing at the minute, I've seen people blame Andy Howe. How the hell can you blame Andy Howe? He's doing his job, but he's actually doing the job over and above that. Because what he's trying to do is do the negotiations with Nixon and a bit ahead of Howe that has been vacated by a poor director of football. I've been told from good source that we'll get the lad from Forest, Wilson, and we're getting the guy that did 6 months at Real Madrid as CEO. So them two jobs are supposed to be nailed on, done, and are being counted down. So I think PIF will come back fighting. But at the minute, there's a lot of voice and noise for PIF. Oh, what are they doing? Well, if you want to do it, let's all slaughter Isak and put some banners on his house and put his windows out. Let's slaughter PIF and get them. Like, what are we? We're getting wound up by a set of morons.
Do you not think it was staged? Do you not think the banner was staged?
I think
by Liverpool fans or
I think when you can do a video of 2 years ago and change all the voiceovers, if you watch that video, it's very convincing and it's an absolute crock of shit. Now, if you do that, get the banner put up by a Scouse kid who's doing an electrical job, I think isn't difficult. It's not at all. But what it is it's why is it necessary to go and slaughter Andy Howe or PIF or Alexander Isak? The harder thing is to think, I don't control this. And what's going to happen come September, I'm going to get the team, ultimately, the Rubens and PIF have chosen. I tell you where a lot of my anger lies. I don't mind sharing it. I'd like to get it from my chest. I'm sitting here as a bloke who's been at the top of companies. I'm not sitting bullshitting on. I own 2 companies now, and I can print a business card tomorrow and I call myself the chairman, or I call myself the CEO, or I call myself the managing director, because there's nobody higher than me. I've had arguments with people, fans on here, because they're telling me where the buck stops. And they want to tell you that Eddie Howe will only choose people out the Premiership. What a load of unadulterated horse shit. What a load of crap that you believe that Eddie Howe will only buy out the Premier League. Eddie Howe's tried to buy Chevalier, the goalkeeper. Fact. Not maybe. He tried to buy Chevalier and he couldn't compete on the wages. He put a genuine inquiry out. The kid's world class. He's going to PSG. So does that mean Eddie Howe has to have a one in your favour because he's looking at the broad? Eddie Howe, as all of a sudden goes on holiday and gets thrust into decision. Paul Mitchell has no plan, has no targets, doesn't know what he's doing. He's bottled and he's left. Why was Paul Mitchell brought in? Because the CEO brought him in without consulting anybody. He did it on his own say-so. Yeah. And what I've said on here time and time again, the book in Newcastle United stops with the CEO. If you don't understand that, you're either naive or you don't understand company structure, or maybe you're just shaded. But what I'm saying is, Eddie Howe does what the CEO allows him to do, as does the director of football. So the director of football was allowed the CEO to make a decision that he wasn't going to give Isak a contract. He's decided Isak's not getting a contract because I don't think he wants one because he's got 3 years to go and he's earning enough. And the CEO didn't question it, and Eddie Howe wasn't powerful enough to stop it. Never mind chucking pelters Eddie Howe. Trust me, a man came in, a narcissist in my personal opinion, which I'm allowed to say, and he decided in his wisdom that he was going to back a break in the system. If you ask me what I know, I would say that they decided that Eddie Howe would go. And I think they wanted Pochettino. That's what I believe. And it's not stories, I'm telling you what I believe. So they're going to bring Pochettino in Eddie Howe's history. Unfortunately, Eddie Howe drove coaching horses right through their game. Okay? They didn't do bad. They've got to click together. There's somebody who works at Newcastle, has been there 15 years. He changed sides. He's still there now. Someone whose name you'd be surprised, who's always been a steady lad. And he changed sides and backed the other side. He backed the Silverstone, the Eales, and the Mitchell. And they've got Amanda and Murdad out. And when the Seladoo was on the quayside at Newcastle, and they're all there, I know 2 people, not in the media, 2 people connected to the club who were in the VIP part, and Silverstone was bad-mouthing Murdad and Amanda at that time. They were instrumental, synonymous with getting them out. Now, that's fair enough. Now, maybe if Murdad and Amanda were unblemished, they might have held on. But when you're running a football club, and when you've got the likes of Bruno's and Joe Lincoln's and all them come together like a family, and people want you out, it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do to put a campaign to get somebody out. And what they've done is they've succeeded in that. They've succeeded to bring a director of football in that worked for 12 months on fabulous wages. If you found out what Paul Mitchell's wages, it's crazy money. It's more than £250,000 to come in and do nothing. What has he done? And people are sitting there saying, oh, it's Eddie Howe, it's Andy Howe. Give it a break, man. For God's sake, smell the coffee, open your eyes. It's a team of leadership. He's a CEO, chief executive, everything stops at his door. So if my company goes bust tomorrow, or my company does well, it's down to me. And if it fails, it's down to me. Please don't look for other people. Underneath him is everybody else. And he makes decisions. And he made a decision when if somebody said, what's the strategy this year with transfers? Who are we bringing in? What deals have we done? How close to the edges? And what are we going to pay for each position? There should have been a document recorded that came through that was approved by Eddie Howe, Andy Howe and Nixon, Paul Mitchell, Darren Hills and everybody else. And that should have been acted on. When a man resigns a week before it starts, that spells a story. But let's take you back to something which is very important. In every business, whether it turns over 200,000 to corner shop, or whether it turns over 2 billion, you do things called a SWOT analysis. Now, some of you will say, well, I know exactly what that is. And a SWOT analysis, which I'll explain for those people who haven't done one, is just focuses on a company's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats. And if you do a SWOT analysis and a CEO decides not to do one, I would say two things. He's either very naive and doesn't realize the importance, or he's very arrogant and he doesn't think he needs one. He doesn't think the answer's to anyone, and it's my way or the highway, and I'll work without the SWOT analysis. But if you did a SWOT analysis on Newcastle, which you imagine they would do, because this isn't Jamie Rubin and the other owners, they didn't buy the club to say we'll run it. They said we'll buy the club to fund it, and the people who we employ is the people who's got to perform. So they go in, they do a SWOT analysis on Newcastle. So what will they do? They'll do S, strengths. What's the strength of the club? They could say the fan base. They could say the manager. They could say the fact we haven't won the trophies is strength, because when we win one at the takeoff. They could say PIF backing is a strength. They could say Isak, centre forward's a strength. Bruno's a loyal captain's a strength. Tenali's a strength. And then they go to W. What's W? What's the weaknesses in the club? They could say the fact that we can't financially compete. They could say PSR's a weakness. They could say APT's a weakness until it gets settled. They could say the Newcastle rules where everyone's out to get us. They could say it's the fact the stadium is getting aged. They could say the training ground is nowhere near the top. That's a weakness. Or they could say the fact we haven't got enough sponsors. Then you go, what's the opportunities for this club? Well, one thing is it's got massive growth in Asia. It's got massive growth in the USA. So if we get them two markets, we'll grow exponentially. We'll be huge. It could say the fact we're the Champions League's an opportunity. Middle Eastern sponsors is an opportunity. And player development, that we would start developing players and be a club like Man City and Chelsea who sell and grow the PSR. And then the key, this is what pisses me off, the nth of the world. When you're in charge of something and your responsibility, it's on your head. So it's right, Stuart Penman, you're in charge, you're the CEO. Tell me this, son, what's your threats to your business? And one of the first threats.
So what you've said there with the CEOs, and Eels is culpable for it. He's took the claps when he's been getting his trophy pictures with his trophy in the bed and stuff like that. If you take the claps, you've got to take the slaps. And he's had a good time and he got to the top of the tree and he rode the crest of a wave and then thought he's made it and stopped working. And for me, he's stopped pushing. He stopped pushing the people below him, and he got the comfort zone once he pushed Amanda and allegedly Amanda and he had it out. And that's it. I'm untouchable now, and that's when the hard work stopped. That's my opinion, anyway, and I'm sure you agree with that.
I think it's right. But when you go to the T on threats, it's
you're on mute, Steve.
I know. What I've got to say is, sadly, with Eels, he did get diagnosed with a really bad illness. And listen, we don't know the full timings of that, etc. But that's what I will say in his defence.
So you can say that. So I've had an illness, but what I'm saying
but
I also have cancer. Does that make me not work? I've got a business that I own, which will increase probably 200% this year and probably 1,000% next year. Because while I had the illness, I went out and worked. There's no shame in saying I've got an illness where it incapacitates us. I could turn around and say, look, I can't do it, so I'm going to bring someone in to do it. But I'm going back to basics. I'm going back to basics. If you love or care for what you're doing and you do a SWOT analysis, the key to a CEO is what's your threats. And the threats to our business is Isak has been promised a contract by previous owners and it's been taken back. You then go to your next guy and you go, well, who's this resting with? They say, oh, Paul Mitchell. Right, Paul, what you doing? Oh, well, I don't think you should have a contract because you've got 3 years to run. Fair enough, you've got 3 years to run. Have you told the lad? Have you had his agent in? And have you given him a promise that we can't do it this year, but we'll do it next year, or we'll stage build it over years 3 and 4? Have you done anything? No, we just haven't told him. I think he's done enough. And that, to me, is commercial neglect. And that's why I think PIF will be furious. That's why I think the Rubens and PIF must look at each other. Who the hell have we employed? This isn't a witch hunt against anybody. This is saying that the management, senior directors at Newcastle United should have sat round and said, what are the threats to this business? And I'll give you some threats that the business got. They've got the threat of wages. We can't compete. All them lads out there that's run through walls that you've got in Europe, we can't compete on wages. That's a huge threat. What are we going to do about it? So sponsors, we haven't got sponsors for the training kit. We haven't named the ground. That's a threat because other clubs have got a ground name and deal. So what about who's going to fix the wages? There's got to be a way around it, because if you don't deal with your threats, then you stay in that next band of clubs. You stay there until you fix it, but it's not going to happen. The cartel's a threat. You know what I mean? Like anybody to run our business say, we threatened by a British cartel. Have we got any expertise? Who's head of legal? Who's looking into this? Have we got opportunity to take it on? Is there a way it could be challenged? And those calls are not being made. I don't think there's anybody in your I'm just making a comment here as a fan. I'm not an important fan. I might just give an opinion. I don't think there's anybody employed on a full-time basis in Newcastle United that understands competition law and the threat of a cartel.
Can I ask you, Keith? Can I ask you then? This is where I think this is going to go for me, and we need to go down this avenue when you're on the show, because it all does come down to the cartel. It does come down to the top six, and it does come down to the Premier League, and it does come down to the rules, and it does come down to the fact that we're not playing on a level playing field. What can we do? I mean, we saw Masters interviewed last weekend or the start of the week, again swerving the issue about what's happening with the results of the Man City case. Where can we go? I've seen people online talking about fan-led cases. What's your feelings on that? Is that something that could be done?
It's very simple. It's very, very, very simple. I got offered at the start of June, somebody wrote to us and offered us £10,000 to start a collection, which I think is an enormous amount of money for someone to give you. £10,000. And I've been offered in July 31 donations. And every one I have to do a Dear John letter to, and it's time consuming because I love what they're doing, but it's gone beyond that. So just to put on record, I talk to Nick DeMarco whenever I see the need. He always comes back to us, always talks to us, always finds us out, chats, whatever. We play table tennis. And what he said was, it's not like it was when you did it last time, Keith. So all the people who's offered me money and all the people are saying to me, will you do it? Let's put that to bed today, because I'm bowing out. Not for any other reason. I've had 2 illnesses since 2021, which aren't good, and I've beaten them. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell you. If I was in the middle of those illnesses, I'd keep my head down, tell nobody. But you beat them, then you get on and get on. Where's my focus? My focus is in making sure the people I love are cared for and making sure my 2 businesses flourish. And when I go to the match and I sat there, what I'm going to do is just enjoy it, just take it in. And I don't want to know who's the next player signing, because I don't want to be in the know. I don't want to make predictions. I don't want to be involved. But when it comes to legal, it will not happen unless...
How much would it cost you?
It will not happen unless a big club backed an action. Clubs cannot take a legal action in a law court against the Premier League, because they've all signed up to the fact that every dispute they have with the Premier League must be sorted by arbitration. And arbitration won't overturn PSR. I can tell you from 5 or 6 top lawyers' mouths, including Nick DeMarco, I don't mind saying, they know that there is a way to do it. Okay? Lots of lawyers say there's a way to do it. But to do it, you need the ability to stop them smashing your case, suggesting you don't have enough money. So when Stu says, how much will it take? Everybody asks that question. Oh, and they want to hear me say, oh, 500,000 or 1 million. Oh, we'll find a way. No. If you get 5 million, they'll get 10. If you get 10, they'll get 20. So you need backing that can't be outbid. Okay? So if you had 2 casinos and in comes PSG's casino and in came Newcastle's, then both of them have got enough money by any stretch of the imagination to run a court action. So their first defence, and the defence they used on Keith Patterson and Gordon Steen when they tried to stop us taking them to court to get the takeover, was they haven't got the money. And then it was, well, we have got the money, so we could back our case. But at that time, we were trying to show, which was quite easy, that we could cover 500,000. It's gone beyond. It's gone beyond 5, 10. It's millions and millions until you can prove you can dance at the top table with them. Now, when I say it won't happen because I don't believe it'll happen. But if I've got a call of Kyriakis or whatever they call them at Forest, or a call of Aston Villa to go down and talk them, the one thing I've got is something the PIF and the Rubens haven't got. When we did the takeover, the buyers did not have a clue about the whole competition action. They also didn't have a clue why the takeover had been turned down in the March. They didn't know. And I went and knocked on the door and explained to them why they'd been turned down. And I had 6 pieces of evidence, but one hinged on the fact that I had a document that where people were canvassing football clubs to go to the Premier League to join together to stop the takeover. That in itself is game, set and match. The lawyers then got me, said the only way this could fall down is if they could prove they never sent that out. If that ever went out, Stuart sent it, or he was writing it, or even Mitch did it on the laptop, but they never sent it, then it's just an idea. It's a negative thought. But if you sent it out, then it becomes an anti-competitive action of cartel behaviour. Yep. I worked with a journalist I trust, and I got proof in writing that they sent it out. I gave it to the lawyers and the KCs and the Nick DeMarcos, and they said, bingo, you've got it. So I had the tool, and still have the tool. I've put in 6 different lawyers' offices for my own safety to show that they have acted like that in the past. Since then, they've done many more things. The Newcastle rules is another example that happened in November 2021, where they did it again, where they got together, made a set of rules, held a meeting on Newcastle. But all this means there's a amount of evidence, and our current club and our directors don't have that evidence. And I'm not sure that they have any focus. There can only be 2 reasons why they haven't got focus, Steve. One is that they want to go the route that Qatar went down, and that is to court FIFA and be a main player in world football. And then our fans say, oh, they're not bothered about us. Because, let's get this clear. PIF are bothered about the world brand. 2030, they want their brand to be bigger than anything on the planet. And they've seen what Qatar's done and see where Qatar's... So that could be a focus of theirs. They might well say, no, we don't want to run such an action against the APL, even though it would vastly multiply Newcastle United. We don't want to do it because it doesn't tie in with us. That could be one reason. The other reason is because they maybe don't know that you can do an action taken by a member of the public, supported by football clubs. So if, for example, and I'll tell you how it works. So let's suppose me, or let's suppose I said, right, I'll pick a fan out, Mickey Edmondson. Mickey Edmondson has a shop called the Back Page. It's in St Andrews, it's in the Metro, it's in Newcastle, in Crampton. Will his turnover be significantly higher if we could compete in the Champions League or win it? The answer is obviously. So he could demonstrate loss. And that's all the member of the public's got to do. Demonstrate that the impact on Newcastle United create the loss. When he then takes an action, it's backed by the club, that I built for him, take him in to do it. I wouldn't let him do it, to be truthful, because I wouldn't let him have the shit. But let's suppose, and that's the action we took, then everybody else in Newcastle that's got a loss, or says my hotel's been empty and I've missed, we've only had 3 European nights, we could have 12. If we did better in the league, this turnover would go up in the bar. All them people can join an action. They can all join an action. Just by pressing the button, you can join an action. So getting to run, building it, it's done. We don't need any of that. People say to me, oh, Billy so-and-so is a big fan. There's 300 of them. They don't want numbers. You don't need numbers. You need somebody to fund major KCs, King's Council. You need Nick DeMarco +5. They all know what the case is. They already press the button, but it needs, ideally, Man City, Villa, Everton, Forest, Newcastle come together, or one of them coming together, because one of them could make this case run. How quick would it happen? If you rang me next week and I went in on Wednesday, we could press the button on Friday, and you could start the action. And the people, I would bring the people from London to do it. It's not a case of ifs, hows, what's, wherefore. Like Steve said, I've got people saying, what can we do? The answer is nothing. Nothing. Without club backing, it doesn't run. Unless a billionaire wants to back it for the hell of him. But why would he back it? Because the only beneficiaries is that guy who owns Forest and Jamie Rubin and PIF. They're the only beneficiaries. They're the one that's going to make the big money. The public, if they could show significant loss, then yes, they'd make that loss. They'd get that loss back. But it's the monies to take on a cartel and to take on the Premier League wouldn't be something that a Mickey Edmondson could fund, because it would ruin his business on legal costs. So what I'm trying to say to you all is, don't offer money. Don't ask me if I'm going to do it. If I get a phone call of one of them clubs, you'll find out. For the perverse side of us would make us go tomorrow and do it to finish off what I started.
Keith, there was 2 questions I had. One you've answered, and I suspect the second one might be the same answer as well. The first question was how much, and the answer is how long is a piece of string? Because I was willing to put money in, and I know you would as well. But as you said, you could raise $500,000. So you just need 500 people to put $1,000 in. I will do it. You would do it. Other people would do it. Would get that. Because
you get a couple of thousand quick, but if you've got 200, they just say 4.
That's what I'm saying. So then you need to club it back. The second question I was going to ask is, because by the sounds of it, I'm saying this for the benefit of people watching. I know you've got irrefutable proof of a case that would win, but what's the timeline on that? How long would it take? Could they keep deferring and kicking it down the road to empty your pockets?
That's a brilliant question, because a lot of people ask that question.
Thanks.
If you could get a run, the Premier League's default position, they do what's called procrastination, and you want them to expedite everything. And the way you expedite is when you run a case that's in public interest, which this would be, because you have a member or members, plural, of the public who are taking an action, and whoever supports it is irrelevant. Because if I open a fund tomorrow called GoFundMe, Newcastle United versus the Premier League, whoever donates into that becomes the business of me, my accountants and my lawyers, and nothing else. So somebody like Man City could donate £1 million.
Anonymously. They could do anonymously.
Yeah, of course you can. No, of course you can. You can donate it. So the money side, it comes to a level. And what you've got to remember is, the judge in the court, in the law courts of Great Britain, when it's outside of arbitration, when it's in the law courts of Britain or in EU law, have got to do 2 things. One is they've got to make sure that a business doesn't abuse a public member. It's in the interest of our great British public that the courts protect a member of the public. So if I took the action and there was substantial backing to do it, and I'm talking about brave backing, and DeMarco went to the bat and said, right, we've got this case, Edmondson and Patterson versus the APL, whatever. They would, it's in their, they would have a duty to absolutely stop any procrastination. to expedite it and to fast track it. And to me, you'll fast track it. A CAT case is a fast track version of an anti-competition law. So if you get the CAT case, that is fast track. That's why I was going down that route. And a CAT case, the calendar's quite quiet. Your CAT case, you'll probably get a run, Stuart, from building the case. Might take you a month to build it, and then the CAT case would probably take you 3, 4, or 5 months to run. So you do it in, you get the whole thing. It took out 6 months. You might take a CAT case and win, and then take it onto a full-blown competition case when it gets big, and that's when
unless they're pulled within that.
It'll be tens of millions, and a full-blown competition case to prove the Premier League is a cartel could take you a year or 2 years, and it could cost you. The fees could comfortably be 100 million. But what I'm saying to you is, if it's to prove a billionaire, I mean, if you think about it, Newcastle's worth $1 billion now, which is what the rumour is, and Chelsea were bought for $3.5 billion, you can see how winning a PSR action, which the lawyers think they can do, you can see why it's infinitely worth backing. Because if you win as well, you don't pay 100, it's the other side to pay the fees. So if you win, you wouldn't be paying these fees. So these people take the action, say to the lawyers, will it win? And counsel say, yeah, this is why you win. That case there, that point there, they're defensive. They won't be able to defend past those points because it's categorical. You've got to just prove there's no way the court will go beyond that. When their barristers say we're not going to beat this, we need to settle, and that's why most competition cases get settled out the court. But understand that these fees and court costs only become relevant if you lose. So the gain, but you've got to remember who are the gain here. Does Neil Mitchell and Steve Wraith benefit? No, they benefit from probably seeing better football, but they don't financially benefit. The only financial winners are the Rubens and PIF today. Hence why the owner of Notts Forest, if a Forest fan's going to do it, it's going to back him. And they back it so that Forest, you see, if Notts Forest, that guy's got big balls. And I'm told from a good source that he's very, very, him and Newcastle are very puppy. You know, they've got a good dialogue. He's supposed to be one of the better public owners out in the market. But he's got the balls to take an action like this. You know, at times I wish I was a Forest fan, and because I think he would be like when I went knocked on Ashley's door. I think he would sit there and listen. I think who would listen now? You would know to go down. What I'm pretty certain is there's nobody in that club now, Newcastle United. I don't think there's anybody there would even know what I was talking about. Why would they? But at the same time, let's suppose you four with the board at Newcastle watch your jobs. I bet the word cartel threats not in any of your job descriptions. And that's my concern. Equally, I think for the last 18 months, I don't think anybody in Newcastle could physically have done a SWOT analysis of the club. And I don't think when the previous leadership team was in place, I don't think any of them were humble enough, or I don't think they answered enough to above to create a list of what the threats to the club were. I can't get my head around this, Steve, where if Al Ramayan says Isak was his best player, do you accept that a man as astute and as sharp as him was told 15 months ago, while Amanda Murgad's gone, there's only one little bit to clean up, Isak's been promised a deal, and our new man Mitchell reckons he shouldn't get one because he's being paid enough. Do you think Al Ramayan would go with that? I think Al Ramayan would have said, let's get him in Tottenham, let's get his agent in. And that's why I'm annoyed the most, because I think we're in a hellhole of a place. It's a circus what's going on at Newcastle a minute, and I think it's all could have been avoided. And I think if we stop criticising, if we stop criticising journalists if we stop listening to journalists who tell you, according to us, Trafford's at Newcastle now, Dubravka's at Burnley, because the guy said it in the paper. Same man who said there was a camel coming over the hill who's going to buy the club before Piff did it. It's just made up lies. But people still follow them and still listen to them. Craig Hope had a story a year ago. He would have got skinned alive of our fan base if he'd released the fact we're in trouble with Isak because he's not a happy buddy. And when you hear the people now, whilst the event, he wasn't happy the first 10 games last season, and it showed. He'd never got a sniff, and he wasn't happy the last 10 games of the season, and he didn't do so good. And does it surprise you? Because how many times have you said, oh, we've got the best player in the world? he isn't paid like the best player in the world. He's not even paid like the best player at Newcastle. So you know, it's 120 grand a week, as much as he can get. And the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo's going to get $250,000 a week. No, man, you can't.
That's my point, Keith. They're not paying them. You can't ask for 150 million and not pay him like 150 million.
No.
But if we go back to when Bruno signed his new contract, and there's people who do this, they troll through people's tweets. I said, now sign Isak. I actually put that on, now sign Isak. Announce Isak as a new contract. And I've got, oh, you're just greedy about everything. And okay, fine. Maybe we can see the future. Maybe it's because we're lateral thinkers and we're not just blinkers. We can look at different angles and we can see or try and stop issues before they happen. That's the whole idea of it. But I'll still go back to what Keith was saying, and I know you guys agree as well. We have people who have been designated with positions of power that have, for me, it's been a dereliction of duty, for want of a better phrase. They took the eye off the ball and thought we don't need to do much. When that's when you should be working.
There's another big myth goes on Newcastle. I'm going to bury it on this show. Every time I read one of these tweets, it says, I can't wait to win the APT, because when we win that, we'll get all these sponsors. I tell you what, they'll make every PIF company put $1 million in for Newcastle. What a load of fairy tale. The only thing it's missing is I hope they all live happily ever after, because it's a fairy tale. Why would you tell a company like Al Hilal you're going to give $1 million to Newcastle tomorrow? If I'm the director of Al Hilal, I say, get stuffed with 6 exclamation marks. Tell Newcastle to swivel on that. PIF invested in this company.
Keith, you'll get a lot of the low-hanging fruit that me and Mitch have talking about for months. They wouldn't get that from PIF sponsorships. That's when they're sponsoring themselves. There's companies in this region that would bend over backwards to be seen to be associated with the PIF. That's where you'd get it from. But that means getting off your horse, getting on a plane, and going out with a nice, shiny, glossy brochure and saying, do you want to be associated with it? Use that as it's the easiest sell in the world.
If that's the case, instead of walking on the pitch today, what's a commercial director walking on the pitch for? Because it's not his job. So he's on the pitch.
I didn't see him because he was an invisible man. I didn't see him.
On the pitch against Tottenham today, I'd say, no, get on the plane in Singapore, get yourself over to the Middle East. Go to the Middle East,
exactly.
And just find out who wants to sponsor. But what I'm saying is, when you think that when the APT, because APT will be won by Man City, it cannot not be won, because the Premier League have decided to take out the part where those who got self-sponsored interest-free loans, which is illegal, what's unlawful, they have not been questioned. He's removed that from it. So how can you win it when it's lost already? So it's going to lose APT too. And when it comes out, some of our fan base think that all these things are going to fall in. Are they shit going to fall in? You tell me, if you want to have an argument, tell me why in the last 12 months, Peter Silverson hasn't put in a shirt sponsor, a training gown sponsor, a stadium. Let's suppose all he signed was a 12-month contract to name the stadium for $5 million. So you can name the stadium B&Q Direct Stadium. You tell me why he hasn't took that $5 million, because this case has been run for 18 months. So he could have just run it from 18 months ago to 6 months ago and said, there you go, training ground sponsor, $3 million. I'm not bothered, 200,000, anything. He's got no deals. It's obvious he hasn't got no deals. And if I was his CEO, I'd be sitting there saying, where's your deals at? How much have you got, Peter? What am I deciding on? Am I deciding between B&Q and Harcross, or is it CBS Fox or CBS? Where's the deals? What am I deciding? And I tell you what, they're all sitting there going, there are no deals. Because if there were deals, there would have written deals with clauses in to say, if legislation changes in the APT, we have the right to sit and renegotiate. And you'd have renegotiable contract breaks. So all you people who think that he's sitting there with a load of deals, no, he isn't. No, he isn't. And if they could...
I'm just going to say, Keith, have a breather. Let's have a little breather. We're not going to have an ad break because we have got a guest coming on tonight, and I did promise this guy he could come on tonight, and it's a good night to get him on. We've got a huge audience, as we often do with the professionals, but we also have a huge audience because of Sir Keith being back on and doing what Keith does, which is speak with passion, speak with intelligence, and always put the truth out there, which is much needed when we're talking about stuff that we concentrate on the football. Keith knows business like nobody else amongst our panel. So great to have him back on. Anyway, Andrew Nagy is going to join us now. He has got a book. Nagy, sorry, yeah, pronunciations. It's Van Heckel still for me as well, don't forget. But anyway, he has got a book out, and it is called The Battle for Newcastle United. Kevin Keegan, Mike Ashley, and one man's search for football salvation. Andrew, welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for sending us across the chapter for me to read. You've had some great reviews already. George Colton at The Athletic says, fever pitch for Geordies, highly recommended. Sam Parker from GQ says, nostalgic and funny. As enjoyable as putting 5 past Manchester United, says Andy J from Adopted Geordies podcast. And our very own Ben Jacobs, who's on this show quite regularly, said, loved it to the tune and back. So some good praise. What is the book about, Andrew? Give us a little insight.
Well, to be honest, the more I thought about this as I wrote it, the book is a love story, right? That's the only way I can describe it, because it's about joy and pain and passion and betrayal and obsession. I kind of wrote it at the height of the hopelessness under Ashley. And it was a point where, after 40 years of supporting Newcastle, I was just football in general. I kind of just felt a bit done. It was like every match day I would dread because of the heavy feeling it would give you after, there was some inevitable problem, terrible defeat, Ashley crisis. So I kind of felt like this is it for me, maybe, as crazy as that feels. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, this kind of unknown existence of a life without football terrified me. It's like football is a metric I've measured my life by. It's how I meet friends. It's, my free time. It's kind of 80% of my conversation. So I had this existential crisis that who am I without football? I didn't know. So I wanted to write a book that had these 2 disparate threads of my Newcastle support in life. So the story is a dual narrative story. So one chapter is Keegan. It's 95, 96, and it's going for the title. And it's all the excitement. And the other chapter is Ashley, and then the kind of madness and the pain and suffering we went through. And I hope the outcome is kind of just reminding us all why we fell in love with football in the first place. And all those things we kind of forget over a lifetime supporting a club.
How long did it take you to write the book?
It was 3 or 4 months. It wasn't too bad. It was those ideas, those conversations you have in your head anyway. So it was kind of nice to go back over old games and things you forgot and things you were certain you remembered that were completely different when you really looked into it. So yeah, 5 or 6 months, and it was really fun to write. And it definitely helped me. It really helped me remember why I loved it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the battle for Newcastle United really is something which, we felt getting this takeover and having this takeover would put all of those problems into the past. We've got a new set of problems now, Andrew.
I think it depends where you're at. The different, as you've been talking about tonight, the new problems present themselves. I think it never really goes away. But I think part of it is, for me, and it illustrates what I try to say in the book is the problems are sometimes what make the bad times make the great times even greater. It's the passion and the pain that really solidifies what it means to be a football fan, and that's half the fun talking about these things. What else would we talk about?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's one of those books that you need to add to your collection. Where can people get the book, Andrew?
You can get it at all good bookshops. You can get it on Amazon. It's available to pre-order now. It's in the shops August 11th. I'll be at Waterstones, Newcastle on August 23rd to do a signing. So come down, have a chat, get a book. Weekend of the Liverpool game, so it's going to be a spicy weekend, I think.
Certainly will be, mate. Glad you could come on. I hope that book sells well. We'll give it another plug as well on another show. But thank you for coming on and sharing your experience about writing the book. And good luck with it, Andrew. Cheers.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, lads.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Good luck,
Good
mate.
luck with it. Good stuff. Okay, we'll do the ads at the end of the show. We've got 20 minutes left. Go on, Mitch.
For anybody wondering, Andrew's one of the original Dubai mags. And he has a lot of mutual friends with me. And he's worked in media, and he's another one of those media connections, hence the connection to Ben. He's a good lad. Support his book. there's a few words in there from me as well. He asked me to contribute as somebody who was daft enough to say, would you write a few words for this as well? So I wish him really well with it. I'm glad we've been able to support him.
Yeah, top man, great stuff.
Cheers,
I'll
mate.
give it a plug on my social media as well. Thank you for setting that up, and good luck to Andrew as well. And if he ever wants to come on and chat about Newcastle, I'm sure he'd be up for it as well. Good luck. I'm sure you write more books. Keep that cut you off on your prime. I'm just going to ask Mitch a little bit about, because he hasn't had much time to contribute tonight. What's your feelings about what Keith's had to say tonight? Because it's always passionate, it's always from the heart, and always very from the
heart. I'm quite happy to sit here and smile and sit back and say again, and something I don't do very often, told you so. I feel vindicating on so many levels in terms of stuff we've been saying in the last few weeks, and sometimes had a little bit of criticism for, is quite plain that, it's not just our concerns. There's a wider concern out there about many things within the club, but then also going on to how do we tackle, and is there the desire to tackle things legally from a PSR or from an APT perspective, and where are things going, and how very self-inflicted so much of this feels. And that's still the bit that wrangles with me the most, is a lot of this could have been intercepted and dealt with in different ways. A proper conversation with Isak and his agent, not just told go away effectively.
Bang on.
Yes, you've been promised this from that perspective, but you've got to, counterbalance that with not qualifying for Europe 23-24 and the effect and the knock-on effect that had, and then squeaking through PSR by 2 late sales at the end of the period. Yes, it must be frustrating for the player, but if the player's fully involved in the conversations and the interactions with the club, then surely there's a way forward together out of all of that. And so many things can be resolved with proper dialogue. That's lack of communication and lack of dialogues where a lot of things fall down in life, not just football. And so, it very much is the case. For anybody thinking that a legal case the size that people would be looking at is an easy thing to run, you've just heard what Keith's had to say. And David's right, Keith's got his game face on tonight. And there's with good reason, but that kind of thing it doesn't just sort of.
Thanks, Albert.
I'm pleased you put that on. I was getting started.
Brilliant. So, and it's why Keith gets so passionate about it, and why his passion and frustration comes across very clearly. Would it have been solved by him giving them a better contract? I would be in a different situation because he had a release clause that someone could activate. But then again, a release clause is there for everybody. It's a number that the club's happy with to say, okay, you are worth that. If somebody's prepared to pay it, thank you very much, goodbye, and move on. It's something we have to get used to. We've got to become not just better buyers of players, we've got to become better sellers of players. And I keep coming back to things like Man United never seem to, or they always seem to know when to release a player, no matter who that player was. Fuck knows we bought enough of them that came to Newcastle United, haven't had a decent career at Man U, and yet never did it in the black and white shirt for it because they were past their best and past their prime, and they knew when to let somebody go and refresh the squad and let the squad evolve. It's no different now. In fact, it's probably more relevant now because squad management and poor squad management is the reason we've got an overstuffed goalkeeper room, a higher than the average age of the squad than would really ideally like. Players like Isak, who's just been released now, but how many of you thought he'd gone from the club long ago, but he wasn't, and he still had another year on the contract. We've agreed a release with him to pay him up because he had another year to go. All of these things that have been, there's 2 directors of football come and gone and not been able to solve that problem. that's terrible. And those two directors of football were supposedly two of the ones that were the best at their jobs. You know, and this is the frustration, and this is where we're at. And Lee's absolutely right. One thing that gets lost sometimes with Chelsea, in and around the Abramovich money, in and around the skullduggery that went on during their takeover, in and around the selling the hotels and the women's team and all the clever accounting things they do. What they've done for years is player trading on a level that nobody else has achieved.
They've been brilliant.
And that comes back to when people come back and say, well, how can they spend that amount of money? Well, look at how much they've brought in. And start to do the maths. And it's not easy. PSR isn't simple maths by far and away that. But that's why. And that's another thing we've got to get far better at. And accept as fans that players will come, players will go, but the bigger picture is always the betterment of Newcastle United Football Club, and that we should move on together, better together, and always be looking forward, not going backwards, not taking a step back. This mess that we've got at the minute just all feels very self-inflicted, and that's what irritates the absolute living daylights out of me. And like I say, I'm quite happy today to just sit back and listen to Keith, because he's just expressing everything that we've been trying to express for the last 2-3 months.
You say that, you sit there.
I'll just add on, Steve. Keith, hang on, but just add on. The one thing I said before, just to follow on from Mitch, is the media narrative. When Liverpool sold Coutinho, it was a wise sale, wasn't it? It was to rebuild. It was a great move. You know, they had the wind of the media behind them. But if we sell Isak, that just makes us a feeder club. We have to know our place. We'll never be able to compete. We're weak, and that's exactly the same thing. The thing that they're doing the same thing, selling the best player for a high price, but they held on and they got the best price possible. Now Coutinho was a very, very good attacking midfielder, but I'm sorry, the very best striker in Europe is worth more than him. And they got 142 million for him 7 years ago. So there's your starting price. And then we can start factoring in inflation, etc. And we'll judge them by their own selling ability. What we can't do is just bow down. And as I touched on before, we're in a very good PSR position because we haven't bought for 2 years. 3-year cycle means we're on zero. We can afford to sit in them. So I just wanted to get that out there. It's how the media portray it, and what we have to do is take a step back and think about what they're saying, why they're saying it, and who does it benefit. And now, I think we should go back to Keith because he's on a massive road.
I think the biggest worry I've got is for people watching this tonight and the people who tune in, because this will go out to thousands of people. To get
3,400 watching tonight live, by the way.
3,500 people, which is just, it's just a mental figure. And I feel like humbled, but I feel a little bit embarrassed by it, because what I've learned to do over the last few months, and some of it's been through illness. You know, like I had cancer twice in 3 years. So when you get that, it puts everything in perspective, because you think to yourself, shit, oh, this is for reals, this can kill you. And then people say to me, oh, you can't criticise Darren Eales. It's funny because when I was running my businesses through my illness, I choose not to tell anybody. I choose to tell people when I got better. So I'm through my 2 illnesses, and that's when I've been comfortable saying it to you. But I'm not allowed to turn around to someone and say, oh, I can't afford to pay for that job you did because I've been bad. You can't do that. When you pick up the salary and the wages, I'm sorry, you're picking the wages and the salary up because you deem yourself fit to do the job. So please don't come back to me and say, oh, you can't say that because he's been bad. That's a load of bollocks. I'm sorry. It's bollocks, because if you go and pick the wages up, you pick the wages up because you're fit to pick the wages up and you're fit to work. And therefore, you can't turn around and say, I didn't do a SWOT analysis and I couldn't be bothered to talk about whether Isak needed the contract because I wasn't well. Or because I give that bloke a job without cleaning it with anybody. You look at Mitchell's background. Where's he been longer than 2 to 3 years? And the answer is nowhere. Why did he come out of them contracts so quick? Did you think he left as little to go on as what he's left Newcastle? And then people say, Oh, they should sack Andy Howe. Come on, give your heads a shake. The kid's working way beyond his level. He's absolutely doing what his uncle's doing and what Nixon's doing. And that's working the nads off for somebody who's took a wage for doing nothing all year. And I do that job. I do that job where I'm the last man standing. So if I get it wrong, the company goes tits up. And if I get it right, I do well. But when you put that name after your name, when you write, Stuart Penman, chairman, push your chest out, boy, then you've got to act like the chairman. And if you become CEO, then that means the buck stops at your desk. But your salary will be a multiple of anybody else's. So don't please come to me making excuses. Don't come to me and say, when they had made a deliberate act, and all three of them made a deliberate act to get a team together to get rid of Amanda and Murdoch, okay? For whatever reasons, the story goes that they were going to sell Joe Linton for 75 million and they give him a contract. And that's why everything went sour, because then they needed the money off Anderson and everybody else. Well, that tells me that the whole directorship team weren't in talks with everybody, because if there were talks, they would have all planned that. And the buck stops with the highest paid employee, who is the CEO. And then, if we do it again, let's suppose we pick roll the dice again and we get somebody else in, and he's done 6 months in Madrid, which means he ain't done a lot, but he's working in the American markets. Well, nobody knew the American markets more than Darren Eales. Unfortunately, over here, you need to know the Newcastle market. You need to know the Newcastle region. You need to know what industry can be bought in the area. You need to know our airport. You need to know our people, our players. And that's why get this market right on your doorstep. Then breach. Once you've done that, once you've conquered the English market, the English league, then go to Europe and conquer that. Then think about the World Cup trophies. But what annoys me is people are quick in Newcastle to find a scapegoat. And up to now, I've heard PIF mentioned every day, and they've funded us beyond that. Like, if you want to pick on them, who are you getting in place of them? That's what worries me. We need PIF, probably more than PIF need us. And if you get them, your next step is to get a team that's worthy of the fabulous backing the Rubens and PIF have given you. And that means somebody will say, buck stops at my desk. There'll not be a threat in this company that I won't deal with and have a plan written down and circulate to every senior executive in this company. And we'll work every day to overcome those threats. Do you think Alexander Isak's contract would have laid on somebody's floor or in somebody's waste bin for 15 months? It's no point playing Alexander Isak. He's a footballer. He's 26. He'd probably not be earning the same money when he's 32. He's probably got 6 years left or 7 years left. Of course he's going to get what he can. You give him 120 grand a week, and Stuart Penman says the best striker in Europe. You give him 120 grand a week, and you're going to have someone like Haaland at Man City on 350, 400. Why on earth would somebody want to do that? And don't get us wrong, he earns fabulous money at 6 million a year. But why would you deprive yourself?
Keith, on the quick fixes, really, though, for this, put somebody in place who can be the face of the club, not Eddie Howe, because he's busy managing the football team and training and coaching the football team and getting best out of the players that we can bring in. Getting somebody in like Amanda, maybe Amanda would have come back in the past, but I think that ship sailed. Steve Hasty would disagree with us, but get somebody in who can communicate with the supporters, not Eddie Howe. Get a new chief executive officer in. Get a new sporting director in who is, everybody's agreed, is the right person to take the club forward and to work with the structure that we already have at the club. And it's as simple as that, isn't it? And then, obviously...
I think it is as simple as that, but I think, in fairness to the Rubens and PIF, why, if you had a training ground ready to go, and if you had a stadium ready to go, would you give it to that leadership team there who's non-existent? Who would you give it to? Would you say, there's nobody there. It's a faceless... It's all right, Steve... coming up with it really humorous. Did they give it the stand on the gate? Did they say to stand that the security man there? Go and announce there's a stadium. It's clear. A, they've got a CEO, and B, they've got a DOF. They've apparently appointed. They've been verbally and contractually appointed. So the two people are in place to come. So clearly they'll be the people that bring the stadium and the training ground. But for me, what I'm saying here is, there's a question I'd like to ask them when they get there. But right now, if you said to me, what have I done since I've focused on my own business and focused on my own health. I've put things like peace before attention. And you know, I did a show a while ago called Ask Keith, and I found it like embarrassing, because who am I? All this is just my opinion. What do me, George, and Steve Hasty know? The answer is, we're just passionate fans. We know now. But what I'd like to do is I'd love to tune in to Ask Jamie Rubin or Ask PIF. That's what I'd like to find out. I'd like to find out what they're thinking. And if I could ask them to something, it would be dead simple. Because I'm retiring off this. I'm bowing out. I'm history. I just asked them 2 questions. One, what's your plans for Newcastle United's fans? What are you going to give them in the next 3 to 5 years? And what you're going to do in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 towards stadium, ground, everything else. The only thing we get with regularity at the minute is 3 strips. We just keep getting told to buy not 1, but 3 strips. Then T-shirts, then goalie stops, and it just goes on and on and on. But the things that we need, we don't seem to get. And the second thing I'd ask them is, do you have any appetite to break PSR? Because I know how you could do it. I'd ask them questions. Beyond that, in the absence of PIF come to talk to me, which won't happen, or I don't think Forest or Villa's going to ring us. That's not going to happen. So then I'm history. I'm just a fan. They'll go to the games, and I'll be that bloke in the corner with the bald head. I don't want to be anybody. I don't want to I don't want any attention. And I just accept that as fans, and I hope more people listen to this tonight can realise, as fans, we control nothing. We don't control anything. We get given what we're getting. And what I'm saying to you all is, best you accept that and live to that. And the big thing is, don't think your role as a fan is to find a scapegoat who invariably will be the wrong man. The scapegoat starts at the highest paid employee. PIF and the Rubens don't run the football club. They pay people to run the football club. So the people they pay, which is the leadership team, are the people responsible for the output, for PSR, for everything else at Newcastle. If you get a shit pie, it's their fault. If you had a shit players, it's their fault. If you've got shit PA system, music, it's all the responsibility of the employees who they appoint. And that's what you need to do. You need to rein in and stop blaming people like scouts or recruitment managers or Andy Howe, for God's sake. Stop blaming them for Paul Mitchell's failures. Look at where all this started. Look at what could have been avoided. And then just realise, and then say to yourself at the end of it all, rather than write this tweet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see who we get in September. And I'm going to go to the game, I'm going to sing my heart out, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to see my missus look after my kids, because that's all you can do.
Great stuff, great show. We have come to the end of it. Amazing show, lads. Great interaction with everyone. Some superb points all around, says Mark. Thank you very much to everybody for their comments. Sorry we didn't get to any questions tonight, but when Keith's on, we like to listen to what Keith's got to say, and I know you do as well. 3,500 of you watching live. A lot of you watching on X. Please jump over onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button, and we do 7 shows a week. We will be asking Keith to come back. He has retired, as he says. He's stepping back, but Keith does like to come on every now and share his news and views. I do want to point out as well, the Jules has set up. She's set up a fantasy league. So if you want to join the NUFC Matters Fantasy League, there you go. That's the code to join. 6EJ79. Don't forget, you can jump back on and rewind when the show finishes to look for that. And just set up a Super 6 as well. There you go. P5EU29. So if you want to do those kind of things, jump on. And Joe Allen has asked me to plug this event, 9th of August, 2025. It is www.skiddle.com/E/4123540 if you want to order tickets. 7 to 11:30, Ignition Bar, 9 Stanhope Street in South Shields. You've got to buy your tickets through Skiddle to go along to that show. So thank you, gents, and we will be back with Mitch and the lads on the Amigos live on Wednesday. I'm going to confirm a slightly earlier time, hopefully with the lads for the professionals next Sunday, and then I'm having a much-deserved week off. Keith, I will see you at the games. Looking forward to seeing you. Thanks for coming on as always, mate.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks a lot. Cheers,
Cheers, Keith. Thanks a lot, mate.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk, email info@mrvickys.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk.